Hello, everyone. Welcome back to All Things Taylor with yours truly for QnA Wednesday. By the way, reppin' Christmas. It's the most wonderful time. Oh, simply having wrong pillow. So welcome back to QnA Wednesday, guys. I hope you guys are loving these videos, like, sharing, and telling all of your friends to subscribe. We're gonna have lots of laughs, lots of really fun questions, and super cool stuff. I know someone said they missed missed me uploading some of my Talks with Taeler Hendrix videos. Funny thing about that is I have been, they've just been with me. I talk to myself all the time. But anyways, without further ado, let's kick off December with the first ever December Q&A Wednesday. Okay, I had quite a few this week, guys. You guys were on a roll with asking questions. Let's keep that up because this has been really fun. Okay. Someone asked me, why do I follow all kinds of people on Twitter? And my immediate answer, being my sassy self, was like, why not? And I think it all goes back to when I was a fan, but I was also very young in the business. Having Lisa Marie Varon, respond back to me on Facebook when she didn't know me from Adam and I was a nobody, that meant a lot, and it was advice that I actually followed through with several years later by going to OVW. Ohio Valley Wrestling. And so, for me, I've always been very appreciative with my fans, but I didn't always know how to show it. And I was like, well, you know what? Why don't I just be myself? My fans love me for who I am. So if anybody doesn't like it, then obviously they were just undercover haters instead of fans. And I don't have time for that negativity, So why not follow, because to me, wrestling is a business and wrestlers are in a business, and when you run your own brand like I do, it's a business. So your fans are just as much a part of that as you are. Without fans, you're not going to be making a promoter money. So then why would you still be getting booked after so long? And then the shows will disappear because nobody's going to the shows and whatnot and what have you because no one's a fan of it. So it's really silly to, I think, look down at fans. So of course I follow you guys. Why not? So that answers that. Okay, handy dandy notebook again, guys. Check that out. Blues Clues. Will I ever go to NWA? I am not against it. I worked with a section of NWA. I think people can buy into the NWA franchise and stuff like that. So I actually wrestled Ruby Riott at an NWA show way back in the day. So that's really funny. I'm not opposed to it. In 2019, I had a lot of offers from a lot of different places, but like I've said before, I wouldn't be able to be doing what I'm about to do if I had signed any of my contract offers. So, and I've been waiting to do what I'm about to do since I was a little girl, but I can't say anything yet. I've been waiting like almost a year to say something. COVID kind of slowed it down a bit, but I cannot wait to share that with you guys. Oh, man. By the way, guys, if anybody wants some tips about the makeup that I'm wearing, please comment below because they are made in the US. They are cruelty-free and they're absolutely fabulous. I love them. I do shout outs to them all the time on my Instagram. Wardrobe malfunctions. Have I experienced them? Have I witnessed them? Okay, I figured something like that was bound to come up at some point in time. What's really funny about that is that at OVW and other places, I've always been kind of a mama bear, which people don't really associate me with, which is hilarious. Like when referees at Ring of Honor would need help, they would come to me like, hey, do you have your sewing kit? Can you help me with this? Or, hey, Taylor, do you have your scissors? Or I'll be like, hey girl, don't worry about this. I got this. Here you go. Hey, do you have tape? Here's tape, all this other stuff. So I'm always like very much like a mama bear in that regard. I was always taught to be prepared for anything. So, if someone needs something, it's more than likely that I had it, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, here you go. So with that being said, it wasn't, they basically joked it was like boob police essentially, because whenever I was wrestling and I saw a girl was about to like have a malfunction or did have a malfunction, I would cover it up right away. Obviously much to, the dismay of fans who want to see that sort of thing, which is kind of disrespectful, but whatever. And I would like pin the girl really fast and be like, hey, you got to fix yourself, or hey, you're about to come out, or whatever. And I would cover it up for them. Sometimes I would be wrestling with them and I would just fix it myself while I'm making them sell, because when their body is moving to sell, the people couldn't see me put my hand in like fix the girl's gear or whatever. So I was always very good with being like spotting that and like fixing it right away. I've had a couple malfunctions where my gear broke. But nothing that was like, oh, hey, you know, my stuff. So, like one time, I believe I was wrestling Kelly Klein. We were the first Women of Honor, like main event sort of thing, which there was like so much like story behind that, let me tell you. But, the back of my gear snapped and came down, but my gear stayed in place, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? And it's like, because I'm not stupid. I have a safety deposit, you know, I make sure there's a safety net, you know. And then there was another time where I was wearing brand new gear. It was at WWE of all places. The last day of my tryout, I'm wrestling Jessica Havoc, who's now a TNA knockout, and the back of my gear broke again, and it was a completely different set. And that's when I learned to I sewed a piece of elastic after that onto both ends of my gear in the back, so that way if the clip ever did pop again, the elastic was there so it couldn't come off. So it was very much trial and error. I did a lot of adjustments on my gear over the years by myself, you know, sewing different things, stoning the gear, doing alterations like taking in the sides or whatever. I actually helped Kelly Klein with her gear to do that, Maria Manic. I saw this past week, or was it this week? Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz versus the Sea Stars. The gear Kiera Hogan is wearing in that match for that tournament, I stoned that gear. Not a lot of people know that. So that's kind of like a really fun behind the scenes thing. I stoned that gear, and I saw it like glitzing on Impact Wrestling. So I was like, yeah, I did a good job. Little pat on the back. So yeah, I've noticed other people have really bad ones, you know. I felt really bad for this girl. She had implants and one of them popped, and it was like, and I was like, that cannot be healthy. And I wasn't in the match, but I was, you know, backstage. We were on the same show, and I was like, end the match, because I just had this fear that there was like chemicals or something like leaking into her body. I don't really know how it works. But yeah, that was just like my fear. I was like, end the match. I don't want her to become toxic on the inside. Like, no. So that's basically that. Anytime like my gear did that in the back, I was able to fix it and stayed in. I'm very blessed in that way. Other people are not so lucky. And that will kind of segue into what another person asked me, which was, what was the inspiration behind my gimmick and my gear? So I broke out that one piece before it was cool. So I kind of want to be like an OG about that, you know. Not a lot of girls are wearing one piece at that point, and now it's like every time I blink, there's a girl wearing one piece, and it's like girls that like don't even need to. It's like, what are you doing? But it's also a lot more PG depending on how it's styled. So that can kind of play a factor into it too. But so the one piece idea came out of a really negative experience that I've talked about on this channel before and on my podcast, where I was booked to be at a Comic-Con, and I was so excited, guys, because I'm a huge nerd. I was like, wait, you want me to be close to the people that are on Gotham? You want me to be close to Elijah Dushku and Tara Reid and like all these other people? Like, I'm at that level? What? Heck yeah, let's do this. And I was so excited. Some of my former students, I got to see them, and they were so big. I hadn't seen them in years. I was like, oh my gosh, you're like little adults now. Oh, I just want to protect you from the world. I love you guys so much. It was so cool, and they took pictures with me. It was such a cool experience to like show them, you know, you may have heard other teachers, you know, making fun of me or whatever because I wanted to be a wrestler, but, you know, look at me now, you know, and I kind of felt like that was a little inspiring for them too. So that really warmed my heart, gave me the feels, you know. So I'm booked at this Comic-Con, and I was booked with a former WWE diva and a former TNA knockout. Okay. And I won't mention their names. Like I said, I'm just I'm not that type of person. And the stipulation and how we're booked is we're supposed to do cosplay. You know, it's a Comic Con. And, you know, wrestlers do cosplay all the time. It kind of goes hand in hand, whatever. So my mom and I buy these pieces and we make this like killer poison ivy costume. We make eye pieces, and I even did like the multicolored like nylons and fishnets, the one piece and the gauntlets. Trying to get it as close to accurate as possible without being like too retro. And what was really cool about my costume when I showed up is I actually owned the first appearance of Poison Ivy in the comic books. And I had it in its like protective case, and I was like walking around with it, dressed up. The problem was I was the only one of the 3 women that dressed up, and they showed up late. And they were very kind of like snooty but nice. You know, like when someone's like saying nice things, but they're talking in such a condescending manner. So it's almost like they're chewing on their own face and you want to punch them in that face. That's how they were speaking to me. And what they didn't realize was they were like snickering and like making fun of me. But I guess when they went outside to take a break, they were like openly out loud making fun of me and my body and just me in general and stuff. And what they didn't realize was a woman that was outside on her phone, just, you know, whatever, was my mom. And my mom heard everything that they said. And when she came back in and told me, I was so embarrassed. I was like mortified. The only thing that I was thankful for in that moment was that my sister, who was also there, my younger sister, she hadn't gone out there with my mom. So I would have been that much more mortified if, you know, my sister had borne witness to it, you know. But it was bad enough that my mother did. You know, I knew that they were making fun of me, you know, at their own table at the Comic Con. But I thought, like, you know, that was just like low key. You know, I didn't tell my mom or my sister or the promoter about it. You know, I was just like, okay, whatever. It's just another one of those things. Hate on Taeler Hendrix, whatever, you know, just do my thing. And now my mom knows. So my mom feels bad after I leave the Comic Con. Well, actually, I was packing up. She left early, and I guess she like found a Kohl's that was near the venue, and she bought me an outfit for me to wear the next day because she didn't like how those 2 women were talking about her daughter, basically, and it made her mad. And so the next day, I don't know why, but I'm in a completely different row and not next to those people. So I didn't say anything, so I don't know what happened. I don't know if the Comic Con just rearranged because there was maybe different guests the next day. I don't know. But so the next day, I am in the cosplay aisle and I'm wearing a regular outfit. And I'm like, Fate, what are you doing to me? Why? You're tearing me apart, Lisa. The Room, one of the worst movies ever made. Check it out. You'll thank me. But you won't because it's terrible. He literally does that in the movie. But anyways. And so I'm like, wow, why couldn't yesterday have been in the, you know, cosplay aisle when I'm in cosplay, and today be in like a regular aisle with the other wrestlers? Crazy. And so I'm feeling very down about myself. I'm very self-conscious, you know. This was only a couple months after I was released from TNA. I had so many people making fun of me, lashing out at me. And then to add this Comic-Con experience on top of it, my first Comic-Con that I'm booked at where I feel like a star. So I'm sitting there wallowing in my own self-pity, looking at my gut check trading card from Impact. And I look up, and the person that's directly across from me is a cosplayer. I don't remember her name. She was dressed as Velma from Scooby-Doo, but her big banner was her as Jade from Mortal Kombat. And she was stunning. She was beautiful, like such a beautiful woman. She did such a great job with her cosplay. She made her costumes, everything. Shout out to whoever that woman was. I'm sorry. I've been hit in the head so many times. I don't remember her name, but she was a really cool chick. Really, really awesome person. And I was like, you know what? Instead of wallowing in my self-pity, why don't I do something about this? And then I started writing down all of the types of characters and things that I loved and tried to come up with this new vision of what Taeler Hendrix would be. And so in that moment, I took Jade from Mortal Kombat, Poison Ivy, Jean Grey as Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix. I took elements of Maleficent, Medusa. I took elements of Elijah Dushku from Angel. I took elements of what I love about Madam Hydra. Huge fan. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then I took Elvira, Vampira, and, you know, Morticia Adams and, you know, a kind of Queen of the Damned and all these other different things. I morphed it in together into what you guys now recognize as the signature Taeler Hendrix look. I basically wanted to look like a super villain, jumped out of a comic book and came to life. And I think I did that very well. I wasn't straight up just taking a character and playing it like a cosplayer or whatever. I was actually making something different and new in my mind and how I envisioned it. You know, I wanted to basically look like if Marvel called tomorrow, I could be it. Like if they wanted me to be a Queen Mara, I could do that. You know, that's what I wanted. If they wanted me to be Poison Ivy, if they wanted me to be, you know, whatever, I would be able to do that. And so I created this whole new vision of this like super villain / babyface, and I loved it. You know, I had dragon scales on my gear, and on my dresses and all this other stuff. Like that was all like my creativity. So I love that. So that's how that all came about. It literally came about from me being bullied and deciding I'd had enough. That's why I always say, whenever with every negative, if you dig deep enough, there's a positive. Have I ever seen Iron Sheik versus Randy Savage on Howard Stern? No, but that sounds crazy interesting. I'm going to have to check it out. Thank you for the recommendation. I believe that was on my YouTube channel. Do I go to haunted houses? I grew up in a bona fide New England haunted house, so absolutely. Absolutely. I love going to haunted houses. They're such a huge thing in New England every fall. They're so awesome. Nightmare New England is crazy. You get like 3 to 5 attractions with one ticket. It's so cool. But I'm very fascinated by that stuff. But I also grew up with a very healthy respect for the things that go bump in the night because of the house that I grew up in. Like, it was nuts. A fan asked me if I was going to do more episodes of Growing Up Haunted. Let me know if you guys want me to do more of those. I did some last year, and I did talk about that a little bit on Hannibal TV. So I'm totally open to doing more of those. Like, my life from the age of 5 to 22 was nuts in that house. Like, NUTS nuts. Let me see. Someone asked me if that they knew that I did a lot of work in Northern California and had I ever branched out into Southern California. Honestly, it hasn't been until the last few years that I started working in Northern California. A lot of my work in California throughout my career was all in Southern California. And if you caught up with all the QnA Wednesdays and watched last week's QnA Wednesday where I talked about one of my most gnarly concussions that resulted from a Northern Light suplex gone wrong, that was in Southern California. That was in like a city just outside of LA. But yeah, I've wrestled a lot in Los Angeles and Anaheim and some other places nearby. So I'm very familiar with Southern California. I've been on shows with the Young Bucks out there, with a lot of people, honestly, a lot. Okay. Another person on my YouTube channel asked me to be a little bit more specific about concussions. They asked me how many do I think I've had and how often do I think that happens in wrestling. Concussions happen way more often than people talk about, and people like Christopher Nowinski, who's a former WWE superstar, Harvard graduate, he's done a lot of research and it's impacted, wrestling, the NFL, and lots of other stuff because what happens is, say, for example, when a new surgical procedure comes out, you have to wait several decades before people actually truly know the effects of that surgery, just like vitamins and things like that. So now that people are putting a lot of money and time and research and resources into concussion syndromes and things like that, we're getting a lot more information that wasn't around, say, when Chris Benoit was wrestling or Eddie Guerrero, or when The Undertaker first started wrestling. So it happens way more than you fans think, way more. And sometimes it can be on the most simple thing. But for me, I've been wrestling for 13 or 14 years now, and I started wrestling when I was 17, so almost half of my life. And I'm aware of either 5 or 6 concussions that I'm aware of. That's not including, all the ones that I could have not been aware of. One of them happened because somebody didn't time their leapfrog right and they landed on my head, and they were over 6 feet tall and over 200 pounds. And when I was going under the leapfrog, their whole body came on my head and shoved my head and my neck into the mat. That was my first ever concussion. And that was probably within the first 2 years of my career. Maybe even a year and a half in, like very young. So I was probably like freshly 18 years old. Another concussion I got was I was catching somebody for, they were doing a fly cross body off the top rope and catching them. And we came down so hard that even though I had tucked my head like snapped backwards and like smacked the back of my head into the mat. That one wasn't gnarly. That was just like, oh man, why? That happened in Ohio. Obviously, another gnarly concussion was what we talked about last week with, getting Northern Lights onto my skull 2 times in a row. That actually happened in Southern California. Where I got kicked in the base of the other concussion I talked about last week was getting kicked in the base of my neck where my neck meets my skull, and my skull bashed against the front of my brain. My brain bashed against the front of my skull, then ricocheted, hit the back of my skull and settled back in. And then she kicked me again in that same spot in the base of my neck where my neck meets my skull. And once again, my brain hit my front of my head, the back of my head, and settled. And while that was happening, I saw like neon colored lights that were like rainbow lights, and then black. And then at the same time too, I was paralyzed from the waist down. I couldn't move. I couldn't protect myself or anything. That happened in the Midwest. No. Down south. It's like a tricky area where it's like down south that's on the cusp of the lower Midwest. It's like just below the Mason-Dixon line, I think. Okay, and let's see. Oh, another gnarly one was when I was at Ring of Honor. I was wrestling in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I got hit in the back of the head with a steel chair. Gosh! And I remember a fan like debating on who was the better wrestler, myself or Mandy Leon, because Mandy Leon swung and hit me in the head with a chair. It was 2016. And she shoves me into the ring. And then because I did a DDT on a chair to her earlier in the year in New York, she then gave me a DDT onto the chair as I'm like acting it out for you guys. The wrestler in me. Somebody was like, well, clearly Taeler Hendrix doesn't know how to wrestle. She took that DDT terribly or whatever, something to that effect. And it was like, they didn't realize like I was concussed, like I was out of it. And so what was supposed to happen is I was actually supposed to get hit in the back with the chair. That's where, and when you're going to do something like that, what wrestlers will do is they'll tuck in their elbows and put them out in front of them. Because if you're getting hit in the back, then the chair is coming from behind. If you tuck in your elbows and get them in front of you, it makes it look like you're about to do something, even though you're waiting to get hit, basically. Wink, wink. But it also protects your elbows from getting shattered. So if you watch that footage, you see me, I put my elbows in, tuck them in and out in front of me, in front of the ring. And I think I had my own chair that I was sliding into because I was supposed to, pretend to get Sumi Sakai with it because that's who I was wrestling. And then the next thing I know, I do that and then boom, right to the back of my head was a steel chair. And then she rolls me in and I went in like a sack of potatoes. I didn't help her at all because I was just so out of it. And she rolls me in and then she gives me a DDT. I didn't put my hands up because I was out of it. And then I just kind of flop over. And then Sumi goes up for her moonsault, which is normally perfect. Apparently this night it was just off for whatever reason. And she moonsaults me onto my face. So I was like, steel chair to the back of the head. Face to the steel chair, moonsault in the face. Boom, boom, boom. And what was worse is my mom was actually in the crowd that day. And I was just like, of course. Of all the shows my mom goes to, this is the one. This is the one. That was a really good match, though, up until that point. That match was a lot of fun. I always love working with them. Sumi. Okay. Who do I feel I have really awesome in-ring chemistry with? This was a question from YouTube. I'm in some really good company. I always feel like I have really great matches with Santana Garrett, Chelsea Green, I really love tagging with Chelsea Green, as much as I drove her nuts. I have really good chemistry with Kelly Klein. The little bit that I got to do, like a face-off sort of thing with Shotzi Blackheart, I really enjoyed. I thought we were supposed to wrestle, but then these fires hit Northern California and it was just terrible. So the shows got, canceled just to, instead they, I think, donated the funds that were supposed to get put on the show. The company decided to, instead of run that show, which was just not an appropriate time to do so, they took all the funds that were prepared for it to pay for that show and donated it to the community. So I thought that was cool. I was like, yeah, if you guys are going to do that, that's amazing. Like, go ahead, do that. Who else? There's a lot of women, but those are like right off the top of my head. Women that I would love to work with, Abadim. I think that I would be like a kick-ass ballet for her, tag team partner, whatever. I see a lot of potential with that. We're both very dark, mysterious, and creepy and cool, so I just think that would be really super awesome. Let's see. Vipress. I would like to wrestle with her. I think that would be a lot of fun, whether it's singles or tag team. Lady Shani in AAA. I love her work. I definitely want to wrestle with her. Yeah, there's a lot of women, so that could be like its own video. If I could choose my own entrance music song, whether babyface or heel, what would it be? This question was from YouTube. The answer for me is the same exact song that I've been using for like the last like 4 or 5 years on the indies. I was using it even while I was still in Ring of Honor when I was doing the indies, and I loved it. It's Freak Like Me by Hailstorm, because I am a freak. I like to think of myself as a misfit. I have never fit in anywhere ever in my entire life, and I like to think of my fans as all freaks too. We're all misfits, so why don't I provide a home for all of my freaks, all of my misfits, and I become your home, like that mother of monsters sort of vibe, like Madam Hydra, Taeler Hendrix, it all fits together. You see my brain, babies? But yeah, so like that song fit perfectly for me, and people would always pop for it. The other song that I really liked, I came out to a song with Chelsea Green that was by Ghost. That was really pretty epic. A lot of people popped for that. But yeah, I really, really love Freak Like Me by Hailstorm. So I keep it. I've had it for years now. Concussions. I already said that. I've probably had like about 6. Oh, I forgot one. How did I forget this? I still live with the effects of this one to this day. So I was wrestling a girl in Kentucky, and it was the last time I ever set foot in that venue. I never set foot in there again. Even the stuff I left behind, I had other people get it for me and mail it to me because I never set foot in there again. I'm on good terms with the company and everything, but I like refused because I got hurt so badly. So what this person did, this person was like 40 or 50 pounds heavier than me, and I'm 5'7", and this person was probably about a good 3 to 4 inches taller than me, and they didn't know their own strength, and they were greener than me, but they weren't listening in the match, right? So that's a recipe for disaster, especially when they're not listening. Like if they're listening, it's fine because you're in control. So I was the heel, and this other person was like a heel baby face. So it was very interesting, but I was a lot more experienced. So I was trying to maintain control, but they were not listening. Right. And this person picks me up with the opposite arm to do an overhand, short arm clothesline. So boom, very close in, but she doesn't let go of me and let me take my own bump. So she follows me all the way down with her arm, and she drills my neck and my head into the mat super hard. And, the referee is now a WWE referee. So that was like his dream. So kudos to him. He was one of my favorite refs. I remember like selling over to him, but not really because it was bad. I was like, I'm hurt. Tell her not to do anything to me. I'm hurt. Don't let her bump me. And I actually remember saying that. I was like, don't let her bump me. And he tells her, he like tries to like pull her away and stuff because she's standing back up doing her shtick for her gimmick, right? Which she should. And he's like, hey, she's hurt. And he's going like this, but like not to the back, but to her, like, she's hurt. Don't do anything. And she doesn't listen. She picks me up on her shoulders and gives me some sort of move. And the reason why I was like, hey, I'm hurt, don't let her bump me, was because she had already hurt me earlier in the match, not long before the short arm clothesline. Because I'm a, not to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty tough person. You know, I finished my match on a fractured ankle. You know, I've finished matches when I was concussed, like we discussed in the last video. I don't know how I managed to finish that match when I have like 9 minutes of memory that I can't account for, but I finished my whole match, everything that we had planned, hit the time cue, everything. I don't know how we did it. I don't know how I walked to the back. I don't know how long I was in the back before I came to, whatever. So for me to like tell the ref, hey, I'm hurt, do not let her touch me, basically, do not let her bump me, it has to be quite a bit. You know, if I need like a second to breathe or whatever, that's totally different. But when I was like, do not let her bump me, I am hurt, it was because I was really hurt. So she didn't listen. I don't even remember the ending of the match. I remember sending the footage to Allie, who at the time was on the indies with me, and we were getting pitched as a tag team at one point. Obviously Allie is now in AEW, and she was like, oh my gosh, and like a bunch of expletives came out of her mouth because she like saw firsthand when I sent her the footage of like what had happened to me at that point. So why I was so hurt, guys, is because number one, I got slapped in the match, and a slap is very easy, but it can also go very wrong. So for anybody listening for this, like pay attention, because a slap is like the simplest, most heat getting popping thing, but you can do it wrong, which seems like super, like how do you slap somebody wrong? Like you want to slap them silly, but it's dangerous, because what she did was she slapped me. She didn't get my cheek. She didn't get my neck, which some people would rather aim for. I personally would rather somebody slap me in the neck, and I'll sell my face and whip my hair so you have no idea that I got slapped in the neck. Like there's a way to fake that or whatever. But she slapped me in the ear. She cupped my ear so hard that I was deaf in that ear. So by the time she short arm clotheslined me into the mat, I lost sight in my eye on the same exact side as my ear. So when I left that building that night, I was blind in one eye and deaf in one ear, and concussed. And the advice given to me was take 8 aspirins and go home and go to bed, which is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do, especially if you have a brain bleed or whatever. So I had to like stay up all night and whatnot, and I couldn't see, and I couldn't hear out of one side. So the next morning, my eyesight came back in the eye, thank goodness. But my ear, I was still deaf. I was deaf for several months after that. And then when the hearing started to come back, it was never the same. It was like hearing out of a funnel, and it was very disorienting. Like my equilibrium was all messed up. And to this day, I still have hearing loss in that ear, which is why Leva Bates and I, when we talk with each other, when we were on the indies together, we would laugh because we would both be like, what? Because she also has hearing loss. And we'd be like, what? And sometimes in the ring, we'll be like, what did you say? Oh, I love Leva. But yeah, so that's also another gnarly concussion. But that one, I definitely, like, I was blind and deaf. Like, she pretty much struck me deaf, dumb, and stupid. That was insane. Like I said, guys, I've had some really gnarly experiences, like some really like experiences. So I got slapped, which caused me to have hearing loss to this day. And I was blind in one eye, and I never returned to that venue ever again. That was in 2013. Yes, 2013. That was not long after my release from TNA. So it's crazy. That was a crazy year for me after I got released from TNA. I got a lot of injuries. Oh, man. Let me see, guys. Let me see if there's one more. Let me see. Oh, okay. Here's a really cool one. They were asking, what can we expect from you going forward? Well, you guys just saw, and I hope you guys will check it out and, spread some love for my second book that just came out. It came out on Cyber Monday. A Fish with a Wish is Trish. It's about a fish who has big dreams of flying high in the sky and becoming the first ever fish pilot. She joins Sully the Sloth, who becomes the first ever race car driver. They are all a part of a series of friends who share in fantastical, nonsensical adventures of the furred kind, starring the furred herd. And they are just a group of friends who are all in their own way, on their own journeys, going after what others say is impossible, and they find the I'm possible within their dreams. And I think that's amazing. I think that's a lesson we can all learn. It took me my whole entire life on this planet to learn that, and I want other people to learn that too. More episodes of Taylor's Tiny Kitchen are coming up just in time for the holidays, and I'm working on a psychological horror book that will be coming out hopefully very soon. It took me longer than the children's books, but I started working on it when I was in high school, so it's crazy. I was already wrestling, but I was still in high school, and this teacher was so supportive of my wrestling. He was the only one. And he was like, Taylor, I know you want to be a wrestler, but, keep writing in the back of your mind. And I can be like, hey, Mr. Sykes, I did that. Thanks, bro. One of the coolest teachers ever. Besides one teacher who taught algebra on his guitar. That actually made math not put me to sleep like Bueller. I hope you guys enjoyed the 2 articles I was in for Yahoo Finance and Disrupt Magazine from India. I'm super excited. I feel very honored and very blessed. There's a lot of bad things that are going on in the world, and I'm just doing the best I can to make the world a better place and keep all of the Taylor fans entertained, engaged, and constantly wondering what's going to be coming up next. I will have more vignettes for you guys, more of my podcast talks with Taeler Hendrix, as well as more videos every day on my YouTube channel. Lots of stuff. I also have more articles coming out for Fightful.com. I feel really blessed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's QnA Wednesday. Some really fun laughs, some really fun stories. Be sure to put some more comments below or find me on Twitter, but I'm probably more likely to see your questions on my YouTube channel because there's just so much going on my Twitter. I think I have answered everyone's questions, so I am all out of questions. So if you don't get any in, there will not be a Q&A Wednesday next week. So I hope you guys enjoyed some of my stories. If I was too brief with some questions, just be a little more specific, and I will try to get those out on next Q&A Wednesday. Talk soon. Be sure to check out my website, taelerhendrix.net. Be sure to tell your friends about my YouTube channel, youtube.com/taelerhendrix. Both of my books, It's Not Easy Being a Sloth and A Fish with a Wish is Trish, are both on Amazon, and they're available in the US, the UK, and Canada. And also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter with @TaelerHendrix. At Taeler_Hendrix, and Instagram with Taeler Hendrix ROH. I'm sorry they're not the same. There were fake me's on the platforms before the real me one was, because I am not that cool. Until next time, everybody.